Okay, I'm gonna go back to screen.
Fine.
Welcome.
Oh, there's two days already. Oh. Oh,
This meeting is being.
okay.
It pops up.
Is everybody
It's-
okay? Is
Can
everybody
you
okay?
guys hear me?
Was that Sheena?
Yes.
We can hear you great.
Yes. Okay.
Can talk. It goes into almost 30 seconds.
Okay, so. Hi, Laudica.
Hi, Ken.
Okay, so everybody that's in the conference room, when you speak, speak toward a speaker. It's very directional.
That speaker.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So before we get going, I'm going to show you a little video, and the little video is 1 minute long, and it's your trivia question for the day is to tell me how it relates to our topic of perceiving or perception. Everybody clear on the trivia question for the day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. So I need to stop sharing the screen. Need to go over here. Need to blow it up. Share my screen again.
Drew. Where's Drew?
He's his.
How is he?
Yeah, he's a sick child.
Oh.
They won't take him in daycare if they're running a
Here
fever.
we go. Tell me if you can see the little bird box.
We did. Yeah, it's playing.
Okay.
Audio's not working really.
It's not rolling.
Oh, it is.
I don't think there's much audio.
डिग्री नहीं होगी तो नौकरी नहीं होगी.
Cute, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me how that relates to the topic of perceiving or perception.
Well,
Well, everybody has a different
Yeah.
perception or perspective of the majority of things.
uh-oh. Oh, I thought you-
Not everybody's gonna look at the same thing as the same thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're right and sometimes you're not.
It's kind of a funny thing because you can see the same thing and you can be present in the same spot, but if you miss something, right? The third cow missed it. So they started the conversation all over again.
Mhm.
Think the
Yeah.
second cow was going to step out to demonstrate? Probably not.
No.
Okay, we're going to do a quick recap of last week, just so we stay consistent. Last week had 7 primary points on managing change. First one, self-reflection, because in any conversation, in any relationship, in any situation, who's the one person that you can affect and ensure in terms of change?
Yourself.
Mhm.
Yourself, right? So if that's the case, it requires that you have the ability not just to be self-reflective, but to be honest and have integrity with yourself in that process. Anybody remember the conversation we had around a problem mindset versus a solution mindset? Can you give me a couple examples of each? Laudica, come on. I know you can.
And I
What-
don't even remember what I had for dinner last night. Come on.
What's somebody that's got a problem-oriented mindset likely to give me a couple attributes? Are they abundance or scarcity oriented?
Like they're problem minded. They're normally a glass half empty type person.
Perfect. They're glass half empty. What else?
They focus on the negative.
Ideas out, or do they throw objections out?
Objections.
Are they positive or negative?
Negative.
Pessimistic, makes excuses.
And so the solutions person is typically the opposite of that, right? When you look at yourself in the mirror, are you often both of those people or just one of them?
Depends on the day.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
I
Yeah.
have to agree.
At some
Depends
point,
on
you're
the
always
day.
both.
We all have the potential to be both in the given the right circumstances, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you ever catch yourself hearing yourself say to yourself, hold it, why am I being so resistant to this?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to move. Oh, anyway, that's the problem versus the solution mindset. Adaptability. If you are self-reflective, if you can coach yourself, talk yourself into being solutions oriented in a situation that you're resisting that on, that's demonstrating the ability to be adaptable. What's the first thing you need to be able to demonstrate when you're practicing active listening?
Eye contact,
I missed that.
eye contact.
Eye contact's a great one. You can have eye contact and still be off thinking about other things, though, right?
Yeah. Active listening.
Mark, if you're talking to me, I think I may just think you're looking longingly into my eyes. What else would demonstrate it?
Full attention, empathy. Question.
Affirmation.
Mhm.
How would you demonstrate empathy?
Affirmation.
Yeah, ask questions or, acknowledge things.
Very, very good. Great. And it's easy to measure success if you walk away from that conversation or walk away from the situation and you've got a solution that wins for both of you. That's chalking one up for both home teams, right? And
Yep.
sometimes you don't get an immediate result, but the example that I can give you from today, Parker and I off and on for the last week have tested technology. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? What are we going to do differently if it doesn't work? Swear to God, 5 minutes, we think we've got the solution. 5 minutes before we start the first session this morning, your internet blipped. And it was just brief, but apparently your internet went down for everybody.
Mhm.
And so he disappeared from my screen. He came back. And when the group came in, we used that as an example. So let's just pretend for a moment, the internet goes down in this conversation. Tell me what you would do.
Call Parker.
Try to reconnect.
Okay, reconnect. Great. Let's say your internet's down. What else could you do?
Call you.
Call you.
No speaker.
You could call me, put it on speakerphone. You could each call into the Zoom meeting and connect, but there's 4 or 5 different and one of the things you could do is say, whoops, we're calling it a day and walk away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solutions. And one of the things you're going to see a consistent theme on is celebrating small victories, because sometimes the real victory doesn't always come, or it doesn't come when you intend it to. That doesn't mean that there aren't things to congratulate people on, things to celebrate, things to be thankful for along the way. And I won't speak for anybody else. I will tell you, those are the ones that I struggle the most with in remembering to celebrate, not for myself, but for the people that are around me. Okay, the warm-up exercise for today. This has been a hoot so far with the other two groups. Let's see how you guys do. Not to put pressure on you, but they've been incredibly interactive on this.
Oh, brother.
Pressure, though. I'm going to show you 9 pictures, and have your picture or your pencil and your piece of paper ready, because you're going to write down a note. What's the emotion that you see demonstrated in the picture? But don't say it out loud. We'll circle back. If I move on from one too quickly, just say so.
Bless you. Bless you.
Everybody clear on the directions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, write it down. What do you see? Other than the cutest little kid on the planet. Next. This is the most adorable face on the planet. It's 5 of 6 or 5 of 9. Remember, focus on the kids. Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what'd you see here?
Frustration.
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 Frustration. Excellent. Anybody else see anything else?
Anger.
Anger, yeah.
Anger.
I wrote them both, yeah.
Perfect. That's excellent. That's exactly right. This is this one and the last one are really obvious, hopefully. There's going to be some as we go that get a little more nuanced. Like that one. What do you see?
Surprise.
Either a surprise or uh-oh.
Well, that's two very different things. Surprise and uh-oh, right?
Well,
Okay,
you
what
could be
is-
surprised in a good way or surprised in a
Oh,
oh no
really?
way, like your dog peed on the floor,
Yeah.
you know?
Boy,
I agree.
That could absolutely be the oh my God, what just happened? Look, right? What
Yep.
else could that be?
oh my God, it's Santa Claus.
Maybe fear.
Shock.
Okay, a little fear, maybe some shock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the answer to this one is surprise. But that's what I saw when I looked for the images. That's what you're pointing out is in every one of these images, the story probably goes deeper than just the initial impression, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We've got to ask about our interpretation of the look. Anna was so perfect in one of her responses. In 3 slides, you're going to see one. I'll address it then. Otherwise, I'm going to give it away. But just remember, part of interpreting somebody's emotions is what you're bringing to that conversation. What did you guys see here?
Disappointed.
Sad.
Despair.
Lonely.
Okay, we're going to circle back to this one in particular, just so you know. Anybody see shame or guilt there?
Yes,
I could see that.
hiding his face.
What'd you see here?
Curiosity.
Curiosity.
Anybody else see anything? Sheena, what do you see?
Curiosity.
Okay. Anybody
Or,
see?
I mean, he could be a little shy or worried about what's above him as well, I guess.
This one symbolically represented fear.
What?
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Want to go though.
Now that he said it.
Remember, there's no right or wrong. And this isn't, a lot of times, a lot of the warm-ups we use are warm-ups that I've used in other places that I've gotten from other people. This is something I did on my own specifically for this. So I'm not saying, all I'm saying is when I wanted to see fear, I said I Googled child's images of fear, and this is the one I chose. So there's nothing right or wrong. What do you see here?
Sadness,
Sadness,
Upset.
grief.
regret.
All of those are terrific. Sadness and despair were what I was going for. But Anna was so interesting in the last group. Anna said, you know what? I see her mom putting her at a table with an online seminar or something like that, and not being able to solve the math problem, and not wanting to be there. I mean, how incredibly specific is that?
Mhm.
Hit home with her.
Sounds like Anna's just showing
Sounds
off.
like you triggered her a little bit.
Or maybe she was reliving her childhood for a moment,
Yeah.
right? Okay, but again, it's what are you bringing to the table? And when you see that, whether it's that one or this one, pick them. When you're not sure, when you hear different answers, what's the response? How do you find out how they're really feeling?
Talk to them.
Yeah.
It sounds obvious, but how many times do we not do that? We just assume. We had somebody that didn't participate in the first group this morning that would normally be there. And the response from the group was, well, go get them. And I said, no, you know what? They've probably got something going on. Let's not jump to the conclusion. And so we talked a little bit about, what were the possibilities? What could be going on? Maybe there's something in their life. Maybe there's something going on at work. Maybe an emergency came up. Let's not jump to a conclusion. So just remember what baggage you're bringing to the table. What do you see here?
Excitement.
Joy.
Joy.
Now, when somebody threw you up in the, by show of hands, how many people remember being tossed into the air as a kid?
I don't.
Everybody, right?
You
There
were
were probably,
surprised.
I remember
there were
being.
probably
falling down
people in your
like
life. Yeah, well, yeah. Do you remember two people grabbing you by your arms and legs and swinging you back and forth?
Oh,
My
yeah.
uncles.
that.
So when you look at that picture, first of all, you probably think about, oh, I remember doing that as a kid or with my kids. That kid either has the look of joy, which she does, or you have seen kids with a look of panic.
Mhm.
Since you're the constant and what you're doing is constant, what's the difference in how they're responding to it? What does she feel toward the person that's throwing her?
Love.
She's
Yeah,
smiling.
Facial expression.
Would you agree she probably feels trust?
Oh, yeah.
And if she had a look of horror, probably not so much. Okay, what do you see here?
Disgust.
Yeah.
disgust.
What I missed that. What?
Disgust.
Disgust. That's exactly the word. You guys are freaking rocking it. It's okay. I'm going to trip you up later. Okay, forget the adult in this picture because that adult clearly is experiencing joy. The endorphins are flowing. What's that kid demonstrating?
Love.
Love. That's exactly right. That's an embrace that's going to strangle the woman, and she's planning it on her like she means it, right?
Mhm.
That's not the kid being told, go kiss smelly grandma.
Those are the best kisses.
And it would have been easy to use adults because honestly, adults bring a lot of baggage. And so it's a lot of times difficult to interpret how an adult's feeling. But one of the things about kids is they experience the pureness of an emotion.
Mhm. They don't got
This
no
is
filter. It is one trip me up a little bit because I was
Joy.
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 happy.
I said happy.
Okay,
Feeling of
joy and happy. Anything else?
Maybe a
Pride.
feeling of success, yeah.
That's a very, very interesting one, Sheena. Would we all agree she's probably in the middle of letting out the scream of her life in that expression of joy?
Mhm.
Some reason that little kid reminds me of the Lion King in that moment.
She's got the name for it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to circle back to this one, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to do a little exercise just real quick. Mark, are you the closest one to the door?
I am.
Okay, so I can see everybody this time. That's great. We're going to tell a story. And Mark, you're going to start the story with, we're going to call him Timmy. And you're going to start the story with a sentence about why Timmy is where Timmy is. And as we go around the room, everybody adds a sentence to the story. Okay?
Timmy
Sheena,
bit his
you
sister.
go last before me. Mark, fire away.
Timmy bit his sister.
He bit his sister. Okay. Tabor?
Sister cried.
Got it.
And Timmy felt bad.
Okay. Timmy felt bad.
Mom put Timmy in the corner. Time out. Then Timmy
Okay.
felt really bad.
Now, these are your observations. We're playing fast and loose. These are not facts. These are observations. Okay. And Stacy,
I
Hold
said,
it.
then Timmy.
hold it.
then
Did
Timmy-
Lautica go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was Lautica's?
I said, Timmy felt bad. for
Okay.
biting her.
Okay. Stacy?
I said, and then Timmy felt really, after hers, because she said, and then Mom put him in timeout. I said, then he really felt bad.
Okay, so
Since he
it's
got
gone from
caught.
sadness to true despair, right?
Yes.
Sheena, twist this for us.
Twist it.
Twist it.
Okay.
Lie.
He's pouting because he got in trouble, not because he bit his sister. I don't know.
Okay. No, that was great. Now I'm going to add a couple. I'm going to add a couple of facts to this conversation. Okay. First of all, Timmy's at daycare.
Is he?
Secondly,
Yeah, I know. Where's his clothes? He's wearing shorts.
secondly,
Don't look like underwear.
well, take that wherever you go. But
Maybe he was
secondly-
blamed.
What?
Maybe he was blamed for something somebody else did and he didn't really do it.
Well,
I don't know.
let me add one more piece to the puzzle. Timmy was thrown to the corner and smacked before he got to the corner, and he's at daycare.
Poor
So he was
Timmy.
abused.
Now, every one of you in this conversation are Timmy's mom or dad, and you just came into the room to pick him up and found him there.
Mm.
I'd ask him what happened.
Mhm.
I'd ask him what happened.
Timmy doesn't want to talk.
Then
Yeah,
I'd take
but-
him out of the room and ask him
Yeah.
to talk to me.
Or ask the supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Ask
I'd
the
be
teacher.
checking his body.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna ask why my child don't got no pants on, or no
Uh-huh.
shoes.
I'd ask the daycare director to review the video for me to be able to see what happened and why he was placed in the timeout
You mean tossed to the timeout?
or tossed in the corner.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
smacked.
And
All the
like,
way over.
But I want to review the video as to what happened.
Yeah, because we don't know that he was tossed to the floor yet.
Oh, we know he was tossed to the floor. That's fact.
We do.
How do we know?
As the
Walked in the
parent,
room, saw in the
I
corner.
thought we just walked
Yeah.
in the room and saw him sitting in the corner and we didn't see what happened before that.
Okay, so the video, you go to see the video, and the teddy
Okay.
can was broken.
The what?
It's broken, the video.
Oh, heck no. My kid's never going back to that daycare again.
Okay, so that's a visceral response. Do you think there's a possibility that your response might be misguided?
Not if he was smacked
And thrown.
and thrown.
It's, again, a perception right now. We don't know the facts. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, we don't have any information.
So you want to ask some questions, and I've heard you consistently say you want to ask questions. Now let's say that you find out that it wasn't one of the kids, it wasn't one of the employees, it wasn't the teacher, it was a parent that saw Timmy picking on their kid, and their response was to literally shove him out of the way to protect their kid.
And smack him? That's not protecting, me and that mother be going at it.
I would
So, I've
Okay,
painted a gruesome enough picture here, but the whole
Somewhere in the
point
story,
is-
I'm gonna end up in handcuffs.
Yeah,
that's
we all are.
but the point of the story is make sure that you check your perceptions relative to where you're coming from, and that you've asked the right questions so that you don't end up chasing the wrong problem with the right solution. How often do we get, so part of the issue here isn't content. Content is abundantly obvious. Timmy's sad, Timmy's crying, Timmy's in the corner, he feels ashamed, all of those things. The accident that Timmy's representing, we get that, but we don't necessarily understand the context that led up to that, right?
Right.
Correct.
So there's the real definitions of what I came up with. And when I send you the slideshows, if you want, you can look through it. One of the things that we talk about when it comes to how we interact in a group or even in life, this is the Serenity Prayer. And it's talking about helping me understand what I can change, what I can't change, and making sure that I learn to know the difference. Have you ever been in a situation when you found yourself trying to drive change when it wasn't necessarily, change wasn't even either necessary or your role to change? So Mark, as an owner, do you ever find yourself in that situation where you're saying, hold it, why am I in this conversation?
Every day. It's usually, why am I on this email? You're right. Of specific, like working with Boeing, and they don't understand the rules, and they think they do, and it's FAA rules, and they can't even follow them. And
Make
they're
their
Boeing.
rules.
It's crazy, but it's things you realize you're not going to change. So what we've done is we've built a system based on their perception of reality, even though it's incorrect, to work around it. It was frustrating, but we came to the conclusion we could not change no matter what, no matter how many facts we provided, they were not going to change.
Is it fair to say the customer's not always right, but the customer's always the customer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It always drives me nuts when I do sales seminars and somebody says, well, the customer's always right. And the answer is no, the customer's not always right. But if what they're doing is legal, moral, and ethical, your question is that somebody I want, and those are all true, you still have to decide, is that somebody I want to be a customer with, right? And if you do, you probably accept some of their frailties. Anybody else have an example they want? Sheena, I always worry about leaving you out because you're remote. Do you have an example of a time when you found yourself where you're asking yourself, am I over communicating or under communicating?
Yes. So sometimes when I have, I'm replying to like an order issue. So some of the repairs we handle in-house, so that would be a repair order, which would be the operations team. And then some of them are handled through our suppliers. So that would be the purchasing team buying it through the vendor. So a lot of times I put both of them on the email, which may not be accurate because I don't know who for sure is going to handle it. And so I feel like I'm over communicating and I'm probably wasting one of their time and email volume. Does that make
So-
sense?
Yeah, it does. So it does, as long as I can ask a clarifying question. I heard you say the customer and the vendor, those are both
Mhm.
outside entities, right?
So it would be my customer, but say we're getting the part from an outside vendor who
Right.
is managing the repair versus us buying the part from an outside vendor that we send to the repair shop to manage ourselves in-house.
Would you agree that in today's world where, the nice thing about working remotely, because I work 100% remotely, so the nice thing about working remotely is I find myself being able to be a lot more productive on one hand, but on the other hand, there's a lot of times when the lack of face-to-face contact compromises my ability to communicate one time as opposed to having to circle back and cycle back. Do you ever experience that?
Yes, occasionally. It's gotten a lot better, but yeah.
Okay. So I'll keep moving on. And if you've got an example, make sure you stop me, because your examples and your experiences are a whole lot more important than anything I've got to say, you guys. Come on, slide advance. So from childhood on, the most common thing that we hear is no. We start when we're a kid. We don't, I remember when my kids were kids, when they were little, there was this big movement for positive affirmations and how you convert every no statement into a yes statement. And it was an interesting learning experience for me, but you become highly or acutely aware of how often we use no in our vocabulary. And so this statement is about no's not no, no's not even a setback. No's just the next step on your way to yes. And going back to that scarcity versus abundance, a problem versus a solution, people that are solution oriented may get down, they may feel some defeat at times, but they always pull on their bootstraps. They always get up the next day and they always say, what does yes look like? And you find your way to yes sooner when you look at it through the other person's eyes, the customer's eyes, your coworker's eyes, whatever it is. And again, in our world, especially with as dispersed as we are, it's so easy to fall into the trap of, I can't see them. It's an email, it's a text, it's a voicemail. I can't see them and I don't really know the context. So I'm going to impose my own context on that message. And this statement is all about saying, this is a great place to be a third party, not an immediate party, be a third party. Take a step back, take a deep breath, and ask, do I understand the content? And do I really understand the context? Because I don't care what the message is, every message has both. And if either answer is no, it's your responsibility to go back and say, I need clarity. So another group participation question. Everybody took the assessment, and the assessment perceiving was one of those. And people typically scored between 5 and 7 in your group. There were no 4s. But let's pretend for a second somebody scores a 4. Is that, and you always use the one that you score the highest on is your go-to. The one you score the lowest on is your least favorite to use as a skill. So let's pretend that I'm this person and my perception score was 4 or less. What does that tell you about my value of perceiving somebody or empathy?
Very high.
You're bad at it.
50-50 chance.
Yeah, probably less than 50-50 chance. If I'm not aware of and of the context of a situation, and I'm not able to demonstrate empathy toward that other person, and in this particular conversation, that other person is emotionally charged for whatever reason. They're angry about where we are in the world with regard to whatever the situation is. If I can't demonstrate through my perceptions empathy, what's the likelihood of a positive outcome?
Slim to none.
Not very
Not
good.
very good.
Mhm.
What do you think happens when you have communications that go back and forth where angst builds, but there's no resolution?
Just falls apart.
Yeah.
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 It's
Frustration builds and it makes it difficult. It makes it increasingly difficult to get to a resolution.
That's exactly right. It gets worse. It doesn't get better, right?
Right.
So when you go back, and hopefully every once in a while you'll go back and look at those scores. Look at your scores, and if you, whatever your lowest score is, ask yourself, am I good with that? And if you are, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Because like I said, nobody in your group scored really low or really high. Let's excuse me, let's go to the other side. Let's pretend somebody scored 8, 9, or 10 on perceiving. That sounds like, wow, I rung the bell, I won that one. Well, maybe not. What's the potential downside of being that acutely focused on empathy and perceiving?
You're not giving enough to yourself.
Okay, you may not be giving enough to yourself. What else?
You're too emotionally involved instead of,
Yeah, you lack discernment.
Okay, both of those are great observations. They're great observations because you may be overly committed to the emotions of the situation where you start speculating, right? You start reading into it without asking the right questions. And you may spend too much time on it versus, okay, I understand what's going on. I've asked clarifying questions. I've got affirmations and confirmations. Let's move on. That person that scores the 8 or 9 or 10 can't move on. They got to talk through it ad infinitum. And again, thank God nobody in your group is 8, 9, or 10. Anybody have a real life example they'd love to share, Tabor?
I don't.
Anybody else? Okay. If not, I put him on the spot. I apologize, but it's this single issue. If you look at whether it's your company or any other company, if you've got a communications issue that's unresolved in the company, trust me, it's because of the emotions that are around it, not because of the content of the messaging. There's unresolved conflict that needs to be addressed. You resolve the conflict, all of a sudden, the message is less of an issue. And that falls on deaf crickets. Okay. So, understanding life in 3D. If there's a slide in this slide deck that's important, it's this one. Here's why. Where are we today? Because of the way the algorithms on the internet feed you news and tailor your feeds, regardless of what your feeds are, tailor your feeds based on the algorithm. We're becoming incredibly singular, one-dimensional in our sources of information that are coming off of the internet. And the internet is the source of most information for most of us anymore. That's not a good or a bad thing. It's where we are today. The second way is two-dimensional, which is the face of a clock. And if you imagine that face of the clock, there's 60 points around that clock. And if we're the hour and minute hand at the center, where those are on the pin, if that's where the accident occurred, let's pretend it's a car accident. And let's pretend that a car came up to an intersection and ran over 2 people in the crosswalk. So let's say Lotica is at the noon position, Mark's at the 9 o'clock position, Stacy's at the 3 p.m. position, and Sheena is at the 6 p.m. position. That's the two-dimensional view. Would you agree that all four people saw the same accident, but may have a different perspective on what happened?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Lotica, you're at 12 o'clock. That means you're viewing it from behind. Were you even able to see the person hit?
No?
Is what you probably heard was screeches and screams, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sheena, you're looking at it head on. What did you see?
Head on?
You're looking at it from the 6 o'clock position. You're looking right into the grill.
Right into the grill. So I'm just seeing the person basically.
You're seeing the person roll up over whoever got hit, right?
Yeah, I'm not seeing the like what's in between the road between the person who hit the other person.
Okay, so that's awesome. Remember, we're telling a story here. So, Stacy, you're looking in the car window as they're rolling up to the intersection. Hold it, Lotica. When you're looking, you would have been able to see A, whether it was a stop sign, B, whether it was a signal. Which was it, stop sign or a signal?
It was a stop sign.
Stop sign. Okay, that simplifies it. Stacy, you're looking into the car windows. They're driving up, and you're noticing that it's a male driver. What's that male driver doing?
Probably texting.
Okay, so let's say they're looking down, presumably texting. Mark, you're looking at it from the 9 o'clock position. What do you see that's different from everything that you've heard?
There's a kid screaming in the back seat.
Kid screaming in the back seat. Did the old lady that stepped out and got run over, did she step out prematurely or was she on time?
Prematurely.
Okay,
She didn't look.
The car's bigger than the person.
It's a stop sign. She assumed they're gonna stop.
okay. So we've got the exact same accident, and every one of those 60 points on the clock tells a different story, right?
Mhm.
So one of the things that you'll hear, my daughter's into true crime like nobody's business. And so she said one day that really struck me, because I've got quite a few friends that are attorneys. And the thing she said was, law enforcement loves and hates eyewitnesses. They love them because at least they've got firsthand knowledge. They hate them because if you've got 50 people that saw the same accident, what do you have?
Yeah.
50 different stories.
Stories, yeah.
50 different stories, right? So I looked that up, and it's something they've done studies on. Eyewitnesses are not reliable witnesses. In Mark's case, he saw something probably nobody else could have seen, which was the old lady stepped out without even looking. She just made the assumption. And Mark probably couldn't have seen what Stacy saw, which was the guy was looking down in his lap or maybe looking over his shoulder at the screaming child, but was clearly distracted, right?
Right.
So the question is, okay, now that you've got 4 or 60 different perspectives, how do you weave the perceptions and the perspectives along with the facts, which is there was an accident and somebody got run over? That's the only fact we know, what time it was, what the intersection. We know some facts. How do you weave that into a reality that you can all live with? Which is your solution?
Evidence. Were there any skid marks on the pavement, and how many feet back did they start? I don't know.
It's a great question. Anybody else have any questions?
Did the woman roll up over the hood, or did she get caught under the tires? I mean, how hard was she?
Yeah, did the driver see
Was it-
her, or
Was he going 20 miles an hour?
was he speeding? Why
Let's
did
say
he
that he was
stop?
braking coming up, so he didn't skid. He was braking. He knew there was a stop sign. But stop signs have more often than not have big wide lines, right?
Mhm.
Let's say he He crossed that line. He was offside. And the little old lady didn't go over the hood. She went over under the hood, and her walker is wedged between her and the bottom of
She
the
got a
car.
walker. Dang,
Oh, okay.
poor old
I think
lady.
you find the common perceptions, and from the different viewpoints, and able to build a case from there.
Latika, what's your observation, knowing what you know? What did it change your perception at all of what you saw in the accident?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
You were looking at it from the rear end of the car. You heard the screech or the thump, and you heard the screams. So you know there was an accident. You know something didn't go right. Do you have any more information now that changes your perception of that accident?
Oh, from hearing everybody else's perspective?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now I didn't get to see it head on. So now I'm seeing all different points of views. So it's making my view clearer, essentially. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So
It confirms my view that it was his fault,
Mhm.
and so all the different perception, everybody's viewpoint confirms that he was at fault.
Mhm.
It fills in the empty gaps of
Yeah.
the information that's unknown.
okay. So there's a lot of questioning that needs to go on. There's some influencing that needs to go on, right? Because one of the things a couple of you have already started to do is influence based on how you make your comments, which is completely fine. Now I'm going to add that. So that was the two-dimensional perspective. The one-dimensional perspective would have been any one of your stories. And Latika probably would have said, I don't know who was at fault. Sheena may have said, because she saw the old lady step out and she couldn't see what Stacy and Mark saw, so she may say it was the old lady's fault, right? But you've got at least 4 different perspectives on whose fault it was. One didn't know, 2 would probably agree that it was the driver, and 1 might agree or might believe that it was the old lady. Now we're going to look at it from a 3D perspective, which is my metaphor of the Inuit carving. And the only point there, the whole purpose in that analogy is to say, if you don't already, force yourself to learn how to become a third-party observer. Because as a third-party observer, first of all, you don't have emotions, you don't have engagement, you're not committed to an outcome. That's the first thing. And the second thing is it's also referred to as spherical observation, which is to say, you can literally, in your mind's eye, float around. In the case of the Inuit, the piece of stone, the piece of rock, the piece of ivory, you can see that in 300 in a spherical sense to start to imagine what it is you're trying to carve. Or in the case of the accident, you're going to see different perspectives and different angles of view, if you will, that you couldn't otherwise see if you were emotionally engaged and attached, if you can't separate, if you will, from your baggage. So those are the 3 levels. The one-dimensional, which is my way or no way, the two-dimensional face of the clock, but it's still on a plane, and the 3-dimensional, which is you can look at it literally from a spherical or global sense without being emotionally attached to the facts of the case or the outcome of the case. Is that a reasonable description or clear description of those 3 levels of
Yes.
You bet.
Yeah.
Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm going to move through this one quickly. We've already talked about empathy as a way of a means of engaging, and the 3 different levels of observation. In each of those levels of observation, you probably have a different perspective on empathy, and just be aware of that. Remember the little boy looking up. If you could look at that little boy from the bottom side, you might see his smile or his grimace. And that was a big part missing in that picture. So recognizing emotional cues, pretty straightforward: smiling, frowning, crying, laughing, shivering, blushing. Have you ever been to a comedy show or watched a comedy show on TV or on YouTube where you laughed so hard you cried, or you laugh so hard because you are just frankly freaking uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Both of those are laughing, right?
Right.
Or have you ever been in a wedding where one side of the aisle had tears of joy and the other side of the aisle had tears of, oh my God, I can't believe she's marrying him. That was my wedding.
Yes,
That was my way.
Oh, I think that was my one.
it was my daughter's wedding.
What's that were you on?
Why is
Joy?
she marrying me?
Somebody give an example of frowning that's not about being sad or unhappy. How else could a frown be used to demonstrate an emotion?
Confusion.
Mhm.
I missed it.
Confusion.
Okay, okay. How about smiling? Can somebody give me an example of the obvious one about smiling is you're happy? Is there another way to interpret smiling?
Yeah, you're nervous.
Yeah, nervous.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
Okay, so everybody gets the point. For any given emotion, there isn't necessarily a single context that you can assign to it. So as you're practicing your perceiving, whether it's in a meeting, whether it's on a phone call, whether it's in an email, a text, a voicemail, just make sure that you take the time to take a deep breath, take a step back and say, how much of my reaction is me and not what they wrote? Because you're the only one that can own that. Ha! And that led to the next slide, the role of context and understanding. Demonstrated situations that happens in family events, it happens in conversations, emails, texts, social media, voicemail. Voicemail, honestly, it's a very interesting, again, I don't know about you guys. I had a phone, I'll use a phone call example instead of voicemail, but I was dialing for dollars the other day, recruiting for a senior level executive for a client. And when I do that, I go out and use research services that give me everybody's phone number that they've ever had. And I just have to start dialing for dollars until I find that person. Well, I called this woman that was a senior level executive, and I actually got the right voicemail. Hi, this is Shirley Smith. I'm so-and-so with this and such company. If you need to get a hold of me, please leave a message at the tone. I left my message. 30 seconds later, I get a call from somebody with the same last name, but a guy's name. We'll call him Frank. Frank doesn't say, hi, this is Frank. Frank says, lose that phone number in a dark, dark, dark voice. And I'm me.
Me off your list.
You know, it was like a cycle. But being me, I said, well, gee,
Mhm, that's what I was thinking.
I called a woman and the woman's voice seemed like a happy person. I left a message like she asked me to leave. I'm going to call that back. Maybe I dialed the wrong number because he didn't introduce himself. I know he's related somehow, but he didn't. And he said, no, you didn't hear me. Lose that phone number and don't forget, I know where you live.
Oh, rude.
Rude. But,
Yeah.
you know, if he had said, ha, yeah, you don't need to do that. Don't forget, brother, I know where you live. That's an entirely different thing than the tone that he took. His tone was dark and threatening, right?
Right.
So I had to decide how I was going to interpret that. That wasn't on him to interpret. It was for me to interpret. I asked clarifying questions. He wasn't much of a participant. He didn't want to play along. He eventually hung up, but I at least went to the extent of saying, can I be a third party in this? Because I clearly don't understand what's gone wrong here. And he showed up on my doorstep. No, he didn't. Not yet.
And I shot it.
Not yet. Yeah. So emotional intelligence, you're going to see these terms all over the place as we move along. Self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, social skills, continuous social skills. Who owns our social skills? Lautica, who owns them?
We do.
We do?
Who's we? Me or somebody else?
Like you as an individual?
You as an individual. I developed a little cheat sheet about this whole concept of emotional intelligence that I'll send out with the slides today, but it's just little things that you can look at to refer to in terms of practicing. But any one of those attributes that are on that, you absolutely own yourself, how you feel, how you respond. And that includes how you respond, even if somebody's being ugly, that doesn't have to be something that's hurtful to you. Your response is your choice. We've already talked about the whole journey. Remember, this is a journey. It's a practice. It's not something you're ever going to perfect. But the difference between scarcity and abundance, the difference between positive and negative, the difference between emotionally mature and emotionally stunted is your ability to be open and willing to learn continuously. So one of the things I've said in every seminar, hopefully I've said it in every seminar, in every conversation I've had with you, if you run into places or situations that are not clear to you, if you want to have a conversation and walk through a problem, walk through a situation, I'm absolutely here. You're welcome to give me a call, text me or call me, either one. Don't send an email because I'll frankly never see it. But if you text me or call me, I'm absolutely here to help. And that's whether it's through the end of the sessions or a year from now, you're always welcome to give me a call. I literally got a call 2 days ago from a guy that he worked with in a similar situation, maybe 18 months ago. And he called me out of the blue and said, I'm still struggling. Can you help me? And I'm like, the answer is absolutely. So celebrate small wins. Don't forget it. Go out of your way. Send a little thank you note. Just, I saw what you did. That was amazing. Doesn't have to be a page. Last quote of the day, you can read it verbatim later, but the bottom line is always think win-win. If you're heading down the road where it's a win-lose, if you're in the winning position, ask yourself, is that really what you want to do? And if you're losing in the losing position, hold up the hand and say, hold it. This is going in the wrong direction. Can we take a different approach to this conversation? So holding up the hand may not work in your environment, may not work in your circumstances, but again, as a metaphor, you get the idea. You're still in control of the conversation. Find a way to get to a win-win scenario. Anybody have any questions from today's session?
That was good
No.
stuff.
That was good.
Hopefully you found it interesting. I will forward on the slideshow. I'll forward on that cheat sheet. You got 4 articles this time. You may or may not have read them. It's not typical for me to send 4, but frankly, this perceiving part of the process, if we don't get this right, nothing else works great either. So I spent a lot of time on this. Take the time to read those articles. Nothing revolutionary. It's just going to spark some thoughts in your mind. Maybe I could do that, whatever that is, differently. The slides that you'll get will include the next dates. And with that, you guys have been rocking. I appreciate how much you've been willing to participate and share. Thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank
All right,
you.
everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Okay. Here's Burger King.